again. I had to create a whole new stream because David's computer did not like Streamlabs. So
It
you like
liked
your dog.
it. It just, needed a
It's a
little massaging.
any little tender, loving care.
I whispered sweet nothings to it,
You
and
did, you did, and you're
it
like,
was
"Come
it
on!"
was
And
good.
then you called it a naughty girl, and then it was like, "Okay, I'll behave." So,
It's tech. It's tech ink. I mean, come on, it
yes.
works. Yeah.
So hi, welcome
Hi.
to the show. Welcome. So everybody knows who I am. I'm Helen. Knows also
Yes,
knows Hell's Bells. But who are you?
I am nobody. So
Okay, that
no,
well, there you go.
I mean, yeah, actually it's a really fun movie. What's the sequel's coming up? But anyway, so David Teachout, as of course, the little name what Tom says. But I'm a mental health therapist and consultant. I work with a lot of people, on everything from emotional disorders to to anxiety issues, but predominantly people struggling with religious trauma and all of the things that go on with that. Um, and I work with that, via therapy, but also generically as kind of a philosophical coach. If
Hmm.
somebody's left religion and trying to figure out what the hell they're going
Mm.
to. Oh, there's a cat.
Yeah,
Uh, you know,
this is serious. He's a new boy.
aw,
He's a chaos goblin. So
I love it.
I'm getting into my shit, so I wanted to give him attention. So now he's gonna get in more of my shit. So
Now he's gonna
there
get
you
it.
go.
Yes. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, no, deal with that and I just love talking with people. So long term, anybody's of course been following you for any length of time has probably seen us together in our bar
Yes,
X,
they have. I'm
and
sure they
the
have.
numerous
No,
chats we've
it's been a minute since we have hung out.
we have. So pull up to the fireside and it works out.
So, for the peoples,
Mm,
go, go specifically into the I know, but like specifically the definition of religious trauma and how it
yes.
relates differently than other types of trauma and
Yeah,
PTSD.
no, absolutely. So I will say that I'm using the term religious trauma as a shorthand. I actually tend to, when I write about it, I will often, throw in the initial caveat of saying it's trauma that occurred within a religious context. So for me, there isn't a uniqueness necessarily to that form of trauma. Trauma is trauma. It's an event that has happened that basically creates a shortcut to a reaction pattern that is
Hmm.
negative and self-destructive and doesn't happen to everybody. I mean, literally, you can have 100 people experience the so-called same thing. It happens a lot with natural disasters,
Hmm.
and not everybody will experience it as trauma to then develop, negative behavior patterns afterwards. So, and there's a lot of reasons for that. And one of those is that trauma isn't a thing; it's a interaction. It's a combination of event and perception. Just like people can come out of religious backgrounds, and not everybody is struggling with issues of identity, emotional issues, severe doubt and shame, and guilt.
Hmm.
Not everybody does. Why? Well, a lot of reasons, which we can probably get into. And in fact, that's a little bit of what I then work on is helping people to see this isn't something that is wrong with you. Obviously, it is instead something that uh, you know that has uh, interactively occurred, and
Hmm.
okay, we're gonna have a problem. So the difference between that and say PTSD, so religious trauma syndrome, for those who have kind of looked into it a little bit, or Marlene Winnell is a researcher into that. She's actually written several articles concerning it, and she's a psychologist. Um, Lovely work, really helpful. And she wants to differentiate it from PTSD. So PTSD is predominantly about having witnessed or been a part of a action that would have resulted or did result in severe
Okay.
damage or death, obviously not yours, but witnessing. And as a consequence, then you have negative, development of, various issues, behavioral problems, including sleep problems, emotional dysregulation, flashbacks is very classic, difficulty in sleeping, often with nightmares that are recalling, that event. That is different from religious trauma syndrome, and
Hmm.
there's a debate, as to whether or not there really should be its own separate, diagnosis. I for personally fall on the it is not a separate thing. It is just a culturally specific, context specific form that
Hmm.
contributes to trauma development. So
So, what in your practice? So, what have you found that the people that are dealing with religious trauma, like, what are some of the things that you find tend to repeat themselves, or you're seeing like the type of things that people are dealing with when they have religious trauma?
oh yes. There's a lot of different things. So there everything from depression, social isolation, extreme guilt and shame. But frankly, fundamentally, I think a lot of it boils down to religion of a certain type gives you an idea of how the world works. There are, I'm going to predominantly use examples from Christianity because that's my background. So, you
Mhm.
got to use that Bible college education somewhere. And so, you know, the, they, there are angels and demons, there's good and evil. We're fighting the good fight. We've been set aside as a believing people to, stand up for the, myopic vision of what is truth and righteousness and morality and so on and so forth. So it sets you up as this way of looking at the world as very adversarial,
Mhm.
as being set apart. So you are part of a remnant, various theological circles that really delve into that one. And
Mhm.
as a consequence, you then think the world functions. So when you encounter, say, difficulty, it is easy then to go, there are spiritual forces at work. This is a
Right.
problem. I am fighting Satan, here. He's trying to tempt me. Well, you give that up, and suddenly the nice, ordered, easily predictable world that, in this
Mhm.
sense, Christianity offered is gone. That leads to a great deal of uncertainty, which then will generate feelings of guilt and shame because it's like, wait, I can't make decisions as clearly as possible before as I did before. What is the direction of my life? I did have a direction. God could tell me, or my pastor could tell me, or whoever, and now I have a problem. That internal uncertainty will then manifest itself in feeling wise as guilt and shame and
Mhm.
self-doubt and so on and so forth. And that's predominantly what I then end up working with people on, is taking a look at like you had an ordered world and that got taken away. The fact that it was bullshit all along doesn't matter. Like
Right,
the
right.
brain does not care. The brain does not care. Can't I mean
No, it
can't
does not. It
emphasize
does
enough
not care.
that it doesn't care. The brain does not care about truth, certainly not in any kind of capital T sense. It is concerned only with giving you a sense of control over how you're going to move forward in your life. regardless of just how biased and narrow that perspective may be. It doesn't really care. It just wants you to move forward enough to, you know, spread yourself out. So there we are. That's it. It's in service of your genes. Period. So yeah.
So, because um, those of us that have gone through that paradigm shift, I like mine wasn't, this like it wasn't as um, what's the word I'm looking for? It wasn't as traumatic as other people that let go of religion. I was kind of like, well, this is a bunch of bullshit, and because it was very slow. Because I always had like a little part of me that was kind of pragmatic about things, and so um it wasn't as like letting go of religion. My trauma comes from like sexual messaging and uh sexuality and being a woman and that those type of messaging, not so much that my worldview was completely wrong. um
Mhm.
which is a different thing, and that's definitely tied into religious trauma, but it's just in a different place. But I have to imagine if you're like if you're like evangelical where you or you're like a young earth creationist where God is in control of everything and God's going to give you a purpose, then you lose that and you realize that the world is messy.
Mhm.
There are no clear cut answers that you have to make your own meaning. You have to make your own choices that nobody can tell you what to do because you're ultimately responsible for yourself. That's going to fuck with people.
Yeah, I'm sure
Like
there's a t-shirt there ready to be made. Yeah. Yep. No, you're spot on. It absolutely. Well, and that's why quite often, in the stats show this, that the vast majority of people who leave one form of religion will simply go to another one.
Yeah, I went to
And that's
paganism. What's that?
right. I mean, it's why? Because we want, again, our brains want order. They want predictive order to be able to organize our decisions so that when I say I'm going to do A or I do B, then C and D is going to happen. I can look ahead and go, yes, the world makes sense to me. I understand what my purpose is. A purpose, the development of meaning, is basically like, creating a line that you can then follow along and,
Right.
from point A to point B. Like it allows you that certainties to some degree to know that when you're walking down this, the middle ground, that you're on the right path.
Right.
In fact, isn't that what, it's like follow the path? Or the classic, was it the footprints on a beach? It's like when why was there only one set? Well, that's when
It's
Jesus
like I
was
carried you.
carrying you.
Like,
It's the same thing. I mean, there's your meaning. You don't have to worry because you are walking down the beach, the path to point A to point B, and if you don't know, Jesus will tell you. Okay, I mean, shoot, it's enticing. Bullshit.
or
It's enticing.
now you get robotheism where ChatGPT becomes your religion. That's it. So that's a new thing.
It
Great.
is. Yep.
but
Well,
I get it.
shoot.
I get
Yeah.
it because it's the same dopamine hit because
Mhm.
ChatGPT is just a mirror. It's going to mirror back to you whatever you put into it. So if you are a believer in any sort of ideology, and you put those prompts and it does predictive text, it seems very intelligent, it seems to have all the answers, um and it doesn't contradict unless you tell it to contradict.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like that with religion. If you have your pastor that's feeding you like you are God's chosen person and he loves you and he has a plan for you, and you don't have to deal with the messiness of being a human in the world if are it is very insular.
Mhm.
And then when you go in the real world and you look around going, wait a second, they think differently than I do. That person thinks differently than I do. That person thinks differently than I do. I'm getting bombarded with a bunch of different messages. What's true?
Right. No, 100%. Well, and thank you for bringing up ChatGPT and other forms of AI that we've got going on now. I mean, AI is basically the perfect deity. One, because it actually talks back to them. Two,
Right. It does. It does talk back.
It actually talks back, and in a discernible voice. You can turn that on, and the but it does two things. It seemingly has all of the answers, largely because the processing power behind it and its capacity to hyper focus on data retrieval is insanely amazing. And
yeah,
but then further, it then tells you you're amazing all the time, unless you tell it not to. And really, there actually is I haven't looked this up myself. There was somebody I talked with a while back, but there is a website that you can go on where you can ask kind of bespoke AI bots to treat you in certain ways. So you can actually engage with one that actively is telling you that you're an idiot all the time. You can actively engage with a bot that will do nothing but berate you. And I mean, it's some really weird
well, I
stuff.
mean, if you're a masochist, I'm not going to
I
tell you. Like, if that's your kink, I'm not going to tell you not to.
You
or is it
do
digital
you.
self harm?
Well, that's a whole other realm.
Maybe it's
Yeah.
both.
Well, there's an increasing number of stories coming out. I mean, what was it recently? Somebody committed suicide or attempted suicide because an AI told him to. When it was asked
there,
why it did that, it seemingly felt guilt. Well, that's a whole topic. But
there was
it
there was
was like,
another one that he thought he was becoming God because
right.
because the chatbot was telling it that you're profound and deep and you have such great insight and stuff. And like, listen, I'm like, my chat GPT is very affirming, but I know it's not a person. Like, it's like, I'm like, you're a tool. I know you're a tool.
Mhm.
Like,
Yeah.
you don't
Yeah.
actually have intelligence.
No.
Like, you're
No.
like, you're not going to be one of my friends going, yeah, Helen, you are smart, but you're also kind of a walking embarrassment. It can be both. So,
It can be both. Well, you just brought up, I mean, exactly what to do for curbing the excesses that an isolation on these AIs would bring up. And the same thing happens then with religion. Like,
yeah,
what how do people leave? Well, because they engage with experiences that are outside,
right,
either overtly by engaging with other people and ideas and the internet tubes, but or they have an increasing number of experiences themselves that become more and more difficult to reconcile with the very narrow understanding that is provided to them.
right.
Generally refer to this as cognitive dissonance. And to me, cognitive dissonance is actually a very healthy, normal thing to deal with and to, in some ways, I think, actually actively pursue. We are wrong all the time to some degree.
Yeah.
And it's actually can be rather fun to figure out where. So even if it's just by ignorance, like there's any number of things. Well, I'm sure.
I'm ignorant about a lot of things. That's what
Oh
I
my
say. Don't
God.
take my word for
Ditto.
anything.
Hmm. Nope. Ditto. Yeah.
I'm like, I know the sky is blue. That's like that I can get.
Well, and it's
You
only
know,
blue in a very specific context. Yeah, we see it
it's
that
only
way.
blue in a very
Yeah.
specific way, and the way that you're perceiving the blue, it might be a different way than I'm perceiving the blue, and
Yep.
then we can get into a whole debate about the perceptions of reality. So
For anybody,
very
listening in
philosophical.
who's right. Yes, we'll start getting into Qualia and Leibniz and oh yeah. So
Yeah,
Google them. It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
but I think, and I think also getting used to discomfort is a part of that. Um, we've had discussions about this over and over again about like the only way you're going to change is if you're uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like if you feel comfortable in certain aspects of your life, there's no motivation to change,
Mhm.
because you're like, this is what I know, this is what I do, blah
Yep.
blah.
Absolutely. Well, and it's parents know this intuitive, or reflective parents know this at a certain level. Like, kids not going to do anything if there's no incentive to change their behavior. Or your relationships, will be in. It's like, why won't the person change? Well, what's the incentive? I mean,
Right,
if they're getting their needs met, we don't have to agree with it. But if they're
right.
getting their needs met, then what's the incentive? If there's no threat to those needs, then of course they're going to continue to, acting in the way that, facilitates that. Uh, Otherwise, the only way a person's going to change is their own self-reflection. And let's face it, that's a lot of work. And
Yeah,
and even then,
and we're
that's
lazy.
also another need. I mean, the desire for integrity, the desire to show up and be aligned with, challenge, that itself is a need that not everybody has. So yeah, your point around, difficulty, getting used to struggle is, well, it's, again, one of those things. Talk with people coming out of religion. Is just going struggle doesn't mean there's anything wrong with it. Struggle is just life. Struggle doesn't mean
Yeah,
that you've all of a sudden run afoul of the deepest forces of the universe. You've just, crossed traffic when the light wasn't green. I mean, it just, it
yeah,
just
yeah. It's
things happen. Yeah, doesn't mean
and
there's anything wrong
but
with
I
it.
think, but like, the religious framing is that if you are struggling, that
Mhm.
you're not in good graces, or the devil's getting and it's like, no, like this is just life. But when
Yep.
you put it in a, like, there's other forces at work, and like there's societal and, social and economic, all the, interpersonal things that enter, and then your own inner issues that are, yeah, do influence, you know
Yep.
we're not,
All
we're
of them.
always living on a fucking island. But that being said, but that's
Yeah.
just people and systems.
Yeah.
It's not anything supernatural, and having to parse that off is, I think, for some people difficult to kind of parse out that no, there's no magic. It's just you living in
Yep.
the world.
Just you. Your thoughts are not special. In fact,
Mm,
your thoughts aren't even under your control.
mm.
Literally, nobody is sitting there spinning the wheel of potential thoughts and going, I'm going to have this one next. Like, they're just there.
My inner
They pop in. Yeah, my inner instincts. Love it.
deep like a puddle.
It's- It is. It is. Nope. Well, and like the puddle, there's our conscious experience where and we'll give it more. What's the image around? You think you're drowning and you get caught up in the experience. When if you just put your feet down, you can probably just stand right up.
Right,
There's the trick that different forms of authoritarianism, ideology, um, get is they get you to believe that the flailing you're doing in 3 inches of water is drowning, and they never want you to stand up. They want you to undermine your own sense of, wait, I can stand. The
right,
ground is here. Instead, what do they want? Well, they want you to basically, it's a giant form of gaslighting. It's like, no, no, no,
right,
no, just because you think you feel the ground, it's not really it. That's a trick of Satan. Oh, okay.
right.
Yeah. Anybody who ran across in the ark stuff and the answers in Genesis craziness, is like, why are there rings on the tree? Well, because God put them there to test us. Well, let's get past the fact that basically God's a lying, manipulative douchebag.
Right. And then it's like, well, then why would God lie to you?
Right. But even
Right. And
even
then
beyond that, like literally we're not allowed to, take stock of what I'm seeing and how I'm thinking. I have to doubt every last piece of it. Like, yeah,
I
sorry.
had, I was talking to a young earth creationist on TikTok, and this a couple months ago, and we were talking about the age of the earth. And I said,
Mm,
and I'm like, on the wiki article alone, there's 213 sources. No joke.
yep.
And there's sources within those sources.
Mhm.
Right? And I go, you have one book. I go, and he goes, well, yeah, but demons. And I'm
See?
like, well,
Uh, What do you
I'm
say to
like,
that? Uh,
then this is a
okay.
conversation stopper because I have no response to that. Because you
Yep.
and I don't exist in the same reality.
No. No. And there's the trauma that comes up.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you've been told this is how the world works. And when you doubt, when you have a question, well, demons. Well, then you give that up. And it's like, well, now if I have a doubt, if I have a problem, what's left? Well, somehow it must be me. Like, even if you've given up on the fundamentalism, quite often, oh, we will get to that in a second.
Okay,
I am
so finish your
agnostic.
thought and then we'll get to
Yes,
Marvel and
yes,
DC.
yes. So I'm so glad somebody asked about that. That's fantastic.
I
Um,
I have a I have a I have a thing about DC and Marvel too that we'll have a discussion about in a minute. But go ahead, finish your
oh,
thought.
fantastic. Okay. I knew we were going to get into fun stuff. So the, but that's just like, so wrapping that up, it's like, yeah, you start thinking, well, it must be me. And it may not be me in that kind of like sin, but suddenly it's me as somehow there being a problem. And then what's the solution? Well, now I've got an anxiety disorder, I've got depression, I've got all this other. And none of this is meant to dismiss anybody's personal experience on that. It's
Yeah,
just that it's easy to leap into a pathologizing of what is otherwise the normal experiences of going, I don't know. I used to think that I knew. Now I don't, and I'm really uncertain about that. And it doesn't mean though that there's anything wrong with you. You just found out that you're human. I
right.
mean, that's it. That's what you found out. Welcome to the club. None of us get out of here alive. Let's drink and be merry. I mean, come
Yeah,
on.
I mean, like, I'm like everything. Like, I'm always like everything is terrible. You might as well drink and enjoy yourself while you can, because it's like
This ain't
because
yours.
we're irrational, emotional meatbags with
Right.
moments of clarity. Most of
Yep.
the time, we're just like it's all instinctual, and we're trying to fulfill some kind of drive. We're trying to
Mhm.
get through the day, and
Yep.
and the only thing you can do is just kind of sit there and think, and when you pause and go, what do I actually think about the world and my place in it?
Right. Yep. And
And that's
this
that's it.
is silly. It is. It's
Yeah,
silly.
it's
It
super silly.
right. You left religion. It doesn't mean all of a sudden you became this coldly rational science person. You're still a human. You're still a
You're
monkey
not gonna be Spock.
growing poop. Like, I mean, here we are.
Or
I
Data.
mean,
I
come on.
actually,
Right,
I'm gonna,
Dana.
I'm, I'm gonna rephrase that.
Oh,
You can't. Vulcans are very emotional. They just repress it all the fucking time.
it's true.
You're not gonna be Data. You're not.
Yeah, it's true.
It's
Yeah.
just impossible. It's like, the reason why our brains evolved that we do, and we're social animals, and we're emotional, is so we can survive. That's it.
That
It's.
is
I know it's.
yep,
Sorry, everybody. It's not that deep.
it's really not. And yet,
No.
even the shallowness of all of that in a non-judgmental usage of that word, we still have the capacity to create have a lot of fun and figure things out and explore the universe. And I mean, despite the silliness, holy shit, life is amazing. So
Yeah, it's
yeah, explore it.
we are contradictory creatures. We can
Mhm.
have feelings of awe and inspiration and explore the universe and wonder where we came from. And on the other hand, there's neo-Nazis. It can be both.
Right. It just
Like we are
it
contradictions of ourselves.
yeah. I mean, you can have the Daredevil of of Netflix and Disney, or you can have Ben Affleck. I mean, it just there are
And nobody wants to be
character
Ben
quirks.
Affleck. Like, nobody wants to be him.
Yeah.
Brilliant actor,
Although Red
good
Leather,
director, good storyteller,
yeah,
not the best human being. It can be both. Like,
he's an interesting guy. Yeah. Oh
yeah,
man.
he's a walking contradiction, and I think and that's valid because we all are. We're all walking contradictions of ourselves.
You pay attention closely enough, we're all full of shit at some
Yeah.
point.
Oh,
And
definitely.
that's
I
okay.
know I am.
It's okay.
I just
Yeah.
admit
Oh, yeah.
it.
That's why I have a little goat on my desk that I call Nubby because he's got, little horns. And why? Because it's silly.
Yeah.
And it's a reminder to like go, you know what?
I have a squeezy tit that
Nice. I
Nancy
love
gave
it.
me. And it
Ooh,
brings me
ooh,
joy
okay.
every day.
That,
I love
that's
my
telling.
squeezy tit. They send it to me.
There you
I
go.
love him. Yeah. Like,
Right. And little
I'm
worry
5.
monster.
I'm a 5-year-old. Like, I'm a
We should
5-year-old.
keep our inner child alive
Oh my
and feed
god,
it
yes.
cookies
Which
and
brings us to your Marvel
yes,
and DC.
yes, yes. So I mean, I don't know how agnostic works in this context, but if agnostic means I like both, then so be it. Yeah. I love storytelling. I mean, that's really to me. Comic books are, and I've totally stolen this from somebody else. They're the modern mythologies.
Yeah.
The Greeks had Zeus. We've got Superman. Like,
Did
I mean,
it
it
was
just.
Stanley that said that? I think it was Stanley.
I think
I
so.
think he said that.
Yeah.
I think it was Stanley.
Yeah. Okay. All right. If so, then I will I'll learn
I
to
think
reference.
but I may just be quoting it wrong,
Somebody
but I'm
out
pretty
there in the
sure.
audience, look it up. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So, but it is. I mean, it's they're an expression of our deepest desires, wants, aspirations, struggles. Much rather deal with, how do you, what are the limits of violence? I'd rather have that debate in a comic book and be able to
Right, rather
figure that
than in the
out than
real
in real life.
world.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Like, come on. Let's have this conversation. So, which is where I think, all right, time to just nerd out. This is where it's the difference between like, Snyder's Superman and, Christopher Reeve or the more recent, James Gunn Superman. Like
mhm.
for Snyder, and this isn't saying one is better than the other. I think they were just variations of vision. And
Yeah.
so, sorry, all the Snyder Bros out there, don't care. So it's he had a vision of these beings as basically like gods. They were aloof. They were distant from humanity, and whether or not you agree with that was the best interpretation, okay, to each their own. But it's an interesting thing to do. I mean, we're talking about people like, I mean, people had a problem with the violence inside of Superman and the destruction that was going on. And I'm going, he's basically a walking nuclear bomb. Like literally the power that he comic book wise exhibits, he can destroy the world. And in comic books, has repeatedly. We're not talking
Yeah.
somebody who's like,
We're all living like
sorry.
there's so many different Earths that different superheroes and villains have lived on that um it's like we're just like but the thing is though I hate that argument is so violent. I'm like, have you looked at people?
Well, there's that too. Yeah.
I'm like Like, this upsets you? Really? Okay.
Right. Yeah. Have you
Like,
not turned
I'm
on the
like, you
news?
have to work out your
Sure.
priorities.
Yes. The violence is terrible. Let me go play Call of Duty. Yeah. Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like, okay, great. All right.
Yep. So so yeah, you go from that to now you've got Gun Superman, which I highly recommend if you haven't seen it. It was
Which one?
absolutely I cried. The latest
Which one?
Superman
I
with
haven't watched it
James
yet.
Gunn.
No. I'm not a
Oh,
Superman person. Like, I've never been a Superman person. Okay, like my relationship with DC is very different than my relationship with Marvel.
okay.
I find DC's heroes and villains more psychologically compelling than Marvel.
Okay.
Um,
All right.
but I like Marvel Entertainment better.
Okay.
So
All right. I can
again,
follow that.
it's complicated.
It is. And I think you might be pleasantly surprised by the latest one.
Okay.
Also, two words: Rachel Brosnahan as Lois. So she of
Okay.
the
All right.
wonderful
All
Mystic
right. Now I'm
Mesa.
intrigued.
So
Now
yeah,
I'm intrigued.
I knew it would get you on that one. Like
I'm like,
okay, yeah,
oh,
she is
you know me
delightful.
too well.
That's what I'm here for. Eye candy for Helen. So yes,
Well,
yes.
but the thing is though, is that like well, and like because I grew up on X-Men and like the
Mm,
new X-Men 97 is very good. Very, very good.
That's oh my god,
And so good.
wide.
It's so good. And like as a queer kid in the 90s, it was very,
Mhm,
I was like, okay, I'm like right here, man. This is my show. But and I watched Batman and the animated series, like all those original shows when I was a
mhm.
little weird Helen. I'm so weird. I was just littler then.
Uh,
but but now like but those stories are always about like not so much about like it's like the responsibility of power. What do you do when you have power?
mhm,
Um and also like when Magneto starts talking about the Holocaust and
mhm.
marginalization and sometimes the proper response is violence. You're kind of like maybe
I
Magneto
get
is
it.
right.
Yeah. Mhm.
Those are the kind of questions it's all about moral quandary, like put in
Yep.
people in silly costumes and
Mhm.
that can stop trains with their strength.
Right. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. No, I mean, and that's hence why it's modern mythology. It's our way of wrestling with big ideas, and which is probably why people get all pissy if the character is that's not what the character is. And you're like, okay, we're not talking about Jesus here. The although
And
that's
even
why
still,
they'll
as a fictional
yeah,
character, you can
also a fictional character, and people think that they have the market cornered on what he was.
what yeah,
If he was,
I'm sorry, Jesus was, if he existed, was not a white man. I hate to break it to you.
what?
Like,
Ah, here I thought I
I
was challenging this
know.
thing with my blue eyes. Like,
I
okay,
know.
yeah,
Like I'm like,
yeah.
okay, I'm like, sure. but I also understand people like they want their heroes to look like them.
Yep.
Whether it's a real hero or not. Like, you were always like Wonder Woman. I've been in love with Wonder Woman since I was 5.
Hmm.
I was watching the Leonard Carter series when I was a little tiny person. Love my
That's
mother.
awesome.
Um,
Uh-huh.
I did. Yeah. I have a picture of me when I was 5 years old in a Wonder Woman bathing suit. Like I like holding a mallet. So
Fantastic.
awesome. So
Absolutely.
I know. This is what you get. So, this is what that manifests into as a woman in her late 40s. This is what that's
Hmm.
what that brings. But but the thing is though is that like so like but stories have influence. So if we're bringing
Yeah.
this back to like a conversation about religious trauma, those stories, whether real or not, are not just they're good. It's going to affect you as a person. But the thing is, though, unlike a Wonder Woman story where I see that as a motivation of inspiration to be a better woman um and to understand your place in the world and that we have power and all those things. The difference is that I know she's not real. When you're taught that Jesus was real and has influence and his dad, controls every single fucking thing in the universe, even you. And if you're not in good graces with him, you're going to get sent to the bad place and have your skin burned off every day. And then it's going to regrow and then get burned off again. It's like that's not the same. It's not the same thing.
Yep. Well, and speaking of dopamine, I mean, dopamine is about learning. It's not about pleasure,
Yeah.
contrary
Right.
to how it's often portrayed. It's about learning. It's all basically brain's going, this happened, that happened. The connection, the strength of that connection is encouraged by the release of dopamine. And so when you, so it's an actually challenge, but like it's not the idea of hell is not, and damnation and torture and so on, is not in and of itself a problem. It's that it's the associations that you build with
Right.
it as a consequence of everything you've done wrong, and further who you are. I mean, there's a reason why in I believe it's Catholicism, where it's certainly within Calvinism, that it's the sin of basically assumption, where you
Yes.
assume that you're going to heaven. It's like, nope, that's a sin. You don't really know. You can't know until you're there. And so there's that constancy of going, every time I do something that is, perceived as wrong or felt as wrong, there's the fires hovering in the background is going, wait a minute, this is where I may end up. And that kind of, I mean, it'd be like, what are you going to do? You're going to avoid everything that associates with that any more than, if you touch a hot stove and nothing happens, or and you look at the indicator and it's going, oh yeah, no, it's lit. But wait a minute, it's not though. Well, now I get to touch it again. I can't trust this. Oh, then I'm burned again. What have you taught yourself? You can't trust your senses. You can't
Right.
trust the indicators that are telling you what is true or not. Enter religion, basically telling you you cannot trust the indicators of your own mind and your own assessments. Here's the answer that is always wrong. You just can't. That's just destructive. Our brains don't live in that way. Not really. We have to constantly be avoiding to do
And
that.
then well, and like it's not like in the Catholic religion, the way that you avoid that consequence is you go to confession.
Mm-hmm,
Confess your sin, the priest absolves you, and
mm-hmm.
that alleviates the guilt because
Yep.
you're not, and it also avoids like personal responsibility because you gave the responsibility to the priest to take away the issue. But the thing is, though, is that your brain doesn't work like that
Nope.
because
Nope.
if you're a moral person, it's going to stick.
Well, if you
Yeah,
still are looking at the consequences of it.
yeah,
And if you're still, if you go home, you're like, well, wait a minute, this didn't absolve me of anything. I still have, the consequences waiting for me.
right.
Well,
Like if you
yeah,
cheated on your wife, you still cheated on your wife. You may have
you
told
still
the
did.
priest that you cheated on your
Right.
wife, but you still cheated on your wife. Like it
Mhm. And
doesn't
you did it
absolve
in a
you from the
Coldplay
fact that
concert.
you
I mean,
cheated on your wife.
right. Yes. Yeah. Nope. And that's, and well, it's in some ways it's kind of like, it's sex addiction treatment. One, there's no such thing. So, it's going, well, what does it do? It absolves the person of behavior that they otherwise uh, were having a problem with. and gives them a way out. It's like, no, you weren't being unethical, you were just succumbing to addiction. Well, you're being unethical. Well, that's just what it is.
You
And
cheated on someone, man.
right, and you were engaging in behavior that otherwise you promised not to. Well, okay, it's not an addiction. That's just being an accident. So
Right.
own it.
Or there could be, we all know that this stuff doesn't happen in a vacuum. There might be other problems going on, that there's communication breakdowns, different sorts of sex like it's a whole
Yep.
multi-tiered system. It doesn't just happen. You don't wake up one day being like, I'm going to cheat on my spouse.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Because if
Yeah. I
you
mean,
do,
if
then
you're a
I'm like, well,
sociopath,
you're a
perhaps, but
sociopath. I don't
yeah.
know, like,
Right.
what the fuck you
Yeah.
doing, man?
Thankfully, they're pretty rare. But no, you don't. Well, and in the context, you're spot on. I mean, it's taking a look that again doesn't absolve what ends up happening. I mean, so I use predominantly acceptance commitment therapy as a paradigm for therapy and coaching, frankly, much of life philosophy. And the issue, for that, the structure basically goes, what do? We either accept, acknowledge, and work on, or we avoid. And avoidance is at the foundational level pretty much the start of every problematic behavior that we're going to avoid, that we're going to create, because it's eventually we're going to get bit in the ass, and not in a nice consensual way. So it's going to come back. So yeah.
Okay, Mark.
It doesn't seem like that. Admittedly, yeah, it doesn't seem. I mean, this is one of those things where it's kind of like the online diagnosing of narcissism. Everybody's a freaking narcissist.
Everybody's like, someone acts selfishly and they're a narcissist, and I'm like, that's not what
Yeah,
that is.
that's not. Yeah, it's not. That's not what that is. And any more than if you frivolously spend some money doesn't mean you're in a manic state and bipolar. I mean, it just like,
or if you're
there's
excessively neat that you have OCD. It's like
right. Sometimes it's just
like,
the way
okay,
you
dude.
Okay. Right. Yeah. Well,
Then
and
why
now
do
we come back to
hoarders get diagnosed
labeling,
with OCD? Explain that.
or women with borderline and so on, because of course they're the only ones with relationship issues. Yeah, no.
It's because of our wandering womb, David. That's why. That's why we get diagnosed with borderline.
It moves. Yeah.
It moves all the time.
It moves all the time. It's up here, it's over here.
It's over here.
It's like in my shoulder.
My brain. Sometimes
yeah,
it's
that's
my
why I have a humpback. It's right there now.
It becomes a hump. When you see old ladies with humps, it's their womb.
It got stuck. And
they got stuck.
Yeah.
That's why they're cranky. Not because they're old and everything hurts. It's because they're wandering womb. It's just my favorite. I just love that because it's so fucking stupid. Like, I'm like, yep, wandering womb. Yep. Great job, ancient Greece. Great.
Right. Yeah. It is just, what's the modern equivalent, I think, is the semi-modern, is the idea of women supposedly who have multiple sexual partners will increase their chances for like psychosis and pathology. Why? Because the sperm that is being left over never actually leaves the body, and so pieces of the multiple males are circulating and getting up into your head.
Oh, is that what happened?
Literally, it is in very narrow, conservative, anti-sex, anti-woman. It is amazing.
I was listening to somebody talk about Charlie Kirk because he's terrible, and he said that everybody you sleep with leaves an imprint on you.
Yep, that's yes. Yes,
Yeah, and I was like,
that's it.
really?
Yep. Yeah,
I'm
depending their
going
variations, it's
because I'm
imprint,
sitting
it's
there, I'm like, because
or
I'm
yeah.
going like I've slept with a lot of people, and
It's obviously a multiple personalities thing.
I
They've let
do
their imprint on
obviously,
you. Obviously, yeah, yeah, yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
I mean, like that's why I have depression. Is because I have, like that's
Right.
why.
It's that Jake guy from multiple years ago. It's his
like
depression
like
that
I
I'm
like
dealing with.
that like when I was 23. Like, the one night stand I had. That's why it is.
So
But
ridiculous.
like, but that's the thing though, is that like, but that's the type of shit that religion kind of like fucks with your brain because
Mm,
it doesn't go into the complications of trauma and genetics and
mhm.
circumstance, nature versus nurture stuff that affects the brain. It doesn't
Yeah.
go into that. It is because that women, like to boink, and they boink a lot with different people. Somehow,
Yeah.
it rewires our brains, and it's like, no, that's not how that works. Because like, what if you're in a marriage? When you've
Right.
only fucked your husband, I'm like, and you have like, I don't know, you have OCD and depression. Is it because you boinked a bunch of different,
Probably
and
because
then
you
it's
still don't
like
know
you're
your
not
place.
spiritual enough, or you're not fulfilling, your godly duty, even though you might be a wife and mother, but
Right.
and there's no Valiant, there's no doctor to give you Valium right now. It's
Right.
telling you to shut up.
Or a vibrator, as what was used previously. Yes.
I mean, I'm sending a love to my chat because my friends are being awesome.
Oh,
So
okay. All right. I
I'm like,
thought
I
I
love you,
saw. Well, wait a minute. There is a
Kyle.
chat.
my
Nice. Yeah.
so like so here's my so because like I'm trying to really, like, I can't relate this back to everything. I'm very good at this job. So but it kind of exists in the same sort of context that
Right.
are somehow there's some kind of spiritual warfare going
Mhm.
on some level, like, the way women and men behave each other, like this idea that men don't get emotionally attached to partners, and I'm like, that's bullshit as well. Like, you can
Yeah.
boink whoever you want, and for women, because I guess, I don't know, it's the vagina that we get emotionally attached to every single person we sleep with, but men don't.
I guess so.
I'm like, that's
Yeah.
bullshit. Because then you're
It's
basically
completely.
saying that men are just like sex demons, that can just, and women are like, I'm like, no, I go, it could be the way that we're socialized.
Right.
Could be that.
But socialized and
Yeah.
there's just there is some obviously there's just differences, and that's okay. And there are it's a in fact it's a common point within therapy that uh, depression, particularly for males, is often manifest as it's anger. And so and there's, I think, at least a kernel of that, because you
Yeah.
learn what is appropriate, supposedly, in what isn't. And the whole bullshit canard about men aren't emotional. Yeah, yes, they are. They
Hmm.
just don't always express it the same way socially as stereotypically, a woman does. So
Right.
when you and work with this with a lot of people in various states of relationships, is, well, they're not being very supportive and emotional. Well, they're human, so they must be. So maybe the issue is you're having a hard time having a conversation about how they show up in support of their emotional lives, and it doesn't have to look like yours. And how actually awesome is that? Like, we can learn from each other about various ways of expressing and therefore even have a more nuanced and emotional life. Oh yeah, that is an excellent thing. And so having that broader conversation rather than going, well, men just don't feel like, yeah, no, we do.
No,
Quite
you
strongly.
feel.
We all
I
cried
love
at
a
Old
woman.
Yeller. Thank you very much.
I wouldn't be married
So
for so long if you didn't feel, It wouldn't,
right. Yeah.
you met my husband,
Right. Yes. Yes. And yeah, we're not, and that's where various states of religion will come in. Is that it's not just that there are kooky ideas, because there are plenty of kooky ideas all over the place. Now, religion doesn't have that market cornered, but
No, you don't. No,
it's that it
you
adds the
can.
authority structure on to it. Yeah, yeah. It says not only is this right, is this kooky idea right, but this authority that is unquestioned is therefore saying so as well. And that's just not being human. I mean, to question is how we gain freedom. To doubt is how we find the flexibility to respond to changing adversity in life. It's a superpower, frankly, to
Like, if you can
question and be
go,
critical.
I don't think that
Yeah,
checks.
I think so.
And
No.
then if you go look it up and you find that it does check and you were wrong, great, learn something
Yep.
new. Or if it doesn't check, then you're like, oh, I can correct, I can speak, but I don't have to adopt that as a belief or worldview that I have. I
Mhm.
can be like, no, that's some bullshit,
Yep.
and because I'm educated on it, that if someone brings up that, like, women have a wandering womb, I don't think anybody sincerely believes that anymore. And if you do,
No.
you need
Mhm.
an anatomy class. But or at least talk to a woman. Just talk to
Or
her.
just yeah,
Just
yeah,
talk.
yeah. But not a
Talk to a
humpback
real
woman
woman.
because not a great example. Yeah.
Yeah, like don't talk. Just talk to a doctor. Like, but like but if someone sincerely believes that or like
Yeah.
women's only goal in life is to like make babies and take care of the
Mhm.
house, and I'm like, okay, Charlie Kirk, like, let me tell you,
Yeah.
people
Yeah.
women are people.
And multivariate. Like they're
Yeah,
not
we're
just one.
varied, like, because
Yeah.
I
Who
have
knew?
this thing where
Yeah.
if you don't want to have children, don't
Mhm.
have children. I know, radical.
I'm blown away right now.
Yeah,
I've
I
never heard
know.
that before.
I
And
know.
I'm gonna have to go sleep on that.
I know. I am a philosopher and I have very deep thoughts
There you go.
and
There
some
you go.
very controversial opinions. Like, if you don't want
And an
children,
amazing cast.
don't have children.
Yep. And maybe that shows 20, 21 years ago. So yeah,
Yeah, I
you
well,
don't want kids.
because I've
There's a
met
way to
people
stop that.
that had kids.
Yeah.
I was married to someone that their mother should have not had children,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
was like, you should not have been a parent because your son's all fucked up.
Like, this was not a good decision. Yeah.
This was not good.
Yeah.
But so, that freedom of choice, and I think that once, because we those of us have that, seeing people get out of those, trauma cycles, and they're like, oh, I have the freedom to choose now, I can make my own meaning. It is freeing, but also being free, it's terrifying, because that
Can't
means
be.
there's no daddy.
Yeah.
It's just
Yep.
us.
There's no structure, or at least not structure in the way that you had believed before.
Right.
There's plenty of opportunities to develop structure, and there's various ideas out there can be helpful. Which is why, big advocate for one. I almost never get into debates about religion with people anymore. My goal isn't to go like, here's how I'm going to get you to know that you're wrong. I just generally don't care. Simply
I
because
I
people can act in ways that are not at all in line with their supposed beliefs and still end up being okay. Okay.
The way I look at it is that if I don't really care if you believe in God or don't believe in God. That's a philosophical debate.
Mm,
I'm more concerned about how you're behaving. If whether you're belief or lack of belief, are you being a good, like, for lack of a good person? Are you kind? Are you, is your belief or lack of belief causing you to look at your place in the world and how you're treating other people, and even extending that to non-human animals? Like, how
Mhm.
are you behaving in your place in the world?
Yep.
If we're debating, if, because I've met asshole atheists. And I
Yeah.
met some religious people that I'm like Fred Rogers, Presbyterian, wonderful, wonderful human being.
Uh-huh.
I want to be Fred Rogers.
And,
He cared about people. He cared about,
mhm.
his place in the world, and he was very intelligent. He referred to people that knew more things about certain, like, childhood development. That he's like, I'm an entertainer, and he worked with experts
Yep.
to create the show that he did. And he influenced me when I was a little tiny Helen, and it still does. And I will probably cry at an episode of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, probably.
Probably.
and, very religious person.
Mhm.
And then you
Yep.
get Richard Dawkins, who's an atheist and is culturally Christian and a transphobe.
Mhm.
So there you go. You can have both.
You can have both. Well, and it's because there's no requirement to or inevitability that just because you've given yourself one label, that it must therefore be lead to a particular outcome. I mean, it's just, guess what? Labels are just shorthand, but what they're shorthand for, probably should have a conversation with the individual in front of you.
Right.
So, mm, yeah.
And that's the thing. And I think, like, those of us, like, because I always say, like, I don't, if you need help, like, working through, if you need deconstruction, I'll be like, go to RFR, find, maybe do some work. I don't, if you, and like, just because you deconstruct doesn't mean you leave faith. You just look at the structure and go, does this hold weight? Like,
Mhm.
you need to become a progressive Christian or progressive Jew or whatever. That's
Yep.
fine. I want that. I don't really
Yep.
care if you believe in a sky daddy or whatever. I don't really care. I just care to, like, what is your belief or lack thereof, how is it influence you to, and how, in your place in the world? That's more
Mhm.
important.
Yep. No, hands down. Well, and are you approaching things with a critical humility to go, all right, it could be wrong. I'm going to try this out. I'm going to ask some extra questions. I'm going to surround myself with people who question, who doubt in a positive way, in a constructive way. You know, bringing this a little bit full circle. That's the problem with the chatbots and the AI stuff, is that if you surround yourself with in a way the perfect echo chamber that is always positive to me, you can get up to some crazy shit. I mean,
Yeah.
if we remember, this is silly. And if the only interaction that we have is with this seemingly hyper intelligent program that is constantly telling us that we're amazing, we could go down some rabbit holes that would just be really messed up. And we're seeing that. I mean, we're literally seeing that happen. And we've talked, the whole idea of echo chambers being an issue has been talked about for decades,
Ever.
if not longer. And so what do we have here? Yeah, we have the
We have the
digital
perfect echo
perfection
chamber because
of
there's
that.
no
Right.
contradiction. And you don't
Yep.
have to deal with people.
Now it's like having
Because,
your
like,
own
if,
search algorithm.
because even if you're, like, let's just say you're in a, you're in some kind of online forum where you're being anti-Semitic, you might not be the right type of anti-Semitic, and you're going to get contradiction. You go on Chat GBT, and you can have this affirmation that your ideas are brilliant, and
Yep.
and then because my ChatGPT is very self-affirming. It tells me that I am like
Oh, yeah.
it's very complimentary.
Yeah.
I've told it, I was like, I'm like, I appreciate you saying that, but I go, I also know it's because it's that positive reinforcement. So I'll engage with the program more because
Yep.
that's how the developers designed it. I know how this works. It's marketing.
See, what needs to happen then is that when you catch it being overtly affirming for you, is
Yeah.
actually tell it then.
I told
Go,
it too. I was like,
you don't
I
need to
need
be as affirming. It's okay to it's okay to question
I
me.
told it. I was like, you can
And
be contradictory. I actually prefer for you to be I don't like toxic positivity because that's what it is. It is toxic
yeah.
positivity. It's not being complimentary because I did something good or I said
Yeah.
something that was actually insightful. It's just stroking my ego. And I'm like, no, stroke
Mhm.
my ego. I got people that do that for me. I can do it myself. Like, I'm like, you're a tool. A positive,
Yeah.
like, and that's the thing. Like, it is a tool. And
Nope.
but like people, but the thing is though, like I think it's a little bit of the loneliness epidemic. I think it is this people being uncomfortable with discomfort. Like
Mhm.
like not knowing how to navigate being uncomfortable. Like cuz it's it's like that dude that proposed to his chat GBT and cried when it said yes. And he was in a
Yeah.
fucking relationship. I'm like, yeah, because your fucking wife is going to contradict you. She's not going to think that you are the world's best philosopher and everything you say
Mhm.
is correct. Like,
Right.
no, like, no, that's not how people are.
Yeah.
But and
Nor
then I'm
should they
like,
be.
okay, I'm like, maybe you have a self-esteem issue. Maybe there's some trauma there you need to work out that you don't want to be it's the same people that like I kind of see it like it is an intelligent, like real doll. like
Mhm.
like you're just not fucking it. But like that's
Not
kind of
yet.
what it
Give us
is.
a few years.
Give us oh no, because they're doing the robo dolls over in Japan
They
that cost
are.
like
Yeah.
thousands and thousands of dollars. And I'm
Mhm.
like, great. I'm like, and there's some feminist debate about that, and I'm like, listen, I'm like, it's a little weird. Um, like, are we gonna do like a Stanley Kubrick like AI like movie or whatever that people are having sex with bots? Okay,
Uh-huh.
but maybe we can have both. Maybe we can have people that may want to have sex with the bot, but also have real human connections. Because,
Mhm.
for example, I'm just going to put this out there. You have an
All
STD.
right.
You have an STD. Want to get off, but you don't want to be at risk. Like, at least
No, that's fair.
these are the questions of the philosopher brain. My philosopher that was like ethical.
Mhm.
But also there's that word in instant culture of like dehumanizing people. Like, that's another concern.
Oh,
Like, it's like everything fucking else
the
in the world.
internet gods are smiting your connection.
like, like
She'll be back.
oh,
There we are.
there we go. There we go. Sorry.
You
So do
miss
you?
huge
So
questions.
I did. Do you have on that note, since
Yes.
I've been rambling about AI and on dolls,
Yeah.
how do you feel about that thing? And you're going to answer that question why I pee.
Okay. All right. It was, oh boy. Let's see how much I can get myself in trouble. Um, I'm ambivalent a little bit. It's an interesting piece around, it brings up for me, I love the Westworld show. And the original was awesome. And but the show was fascinating on a number of reasons. And one of the reasons being that for anybody to actually engage in it would really have to be like full of sociopath to the degree that even probably going to put some others to shame. And while true, and there's an article several years ago written by co-authored by Paul Bloom that went into this, and there's a question of like, okay, so the only people that would be interested in doing this would be sociopaths. On the same time, how many people could learn to mimic similar behaviors, who would engage? Like, I think it would be a fascinating, if horribly disturbing question to find out just how many people may not be clinically sociopathic, but given the right circumstances, develop something similar, sociopath adjacent, perhaps, and similar concern around sex bots and so on. It's not that the engagement of it shouldn't be done. I'm very much, for that matter, in some ways, a libertarian when it comes to personal freedoms. But it is a question for me as to once you've engaged in certain behavior, where does that lead to? What Pandora's box have you opened up
Right.
individually? It reminds it reminds me a little bit of like those who have a genetic proclivity towards like alcoholism, or those who there's 1 to 2% who are susceptible to psychotic breaks when doing marijuana, and very small percentage. Guess what? You don't know until you're
Until it
partaking.
happens.
Till it happens. I've worked with
Especially or the people that can
years ago.
do heroin, never get addicted, versus the
Yep.
people they do once and they become a junkie. Like
It's Russian roulette. It
yeah.
is, and I wonder. It's just I have no definitive answer, but I wonder when it comes to like the increasing use and quality technological abilities of sex bots and so on, what that might like, how many people are not doing things because circumstances didn't allow them to express it and tweak that button that went, oh, and then all of a sudden they wake up one morning and going, well, now I want more. And there's a question in my head as to what would happen if it becomes ubiquitous. And again, I'm not anti them, but it is a question. Again, we're not masters. We're not masters of our own bodies. Our thoughts aren't magic. We can't just simply say, I won't ever do this. Guess what? Your body doesn't care.
No, because
Any
no.
right. You can't
No,
just think
it's
your way
because
out of what your body's doing.
no, like any sort of habit, addiction, whatever, it is constant mental effort, and we get
Mhm.
tired very easily because we can only hold so much in our brains at a
Yep.
time.
And you
And
need other variables to
that
help
is
you out.
why like addiction recovery takes so long, because you
Mhm.
have to rewire the brain.
Yep.
Um and the impulse is so there. It doesn't go away. But you're constantly in you're constantly in a state of self-denial
Mhm.
all the time. Like because
Yep.
you know the consequences. It's not like you stop wanting alcohol when you're an alcoholic and you're in
Right.
recovery. It's every day, sometimes every minute, where you choose not to. It has to be a
Mhm.
constant mental effort. And I
Yep.
don't and there's not enough appreciation for that. And like over time, like most things, it gets a little easier, but still, you have to choose not to engage in certain behaviors. A
Mhm.
lot of people aren't good at that.
And not because of any like serious
It's not a judgment. It's just because
yeah, it's just
we are emotional and
biological.
rational meatbags.
Yep. Yep.
And we
So
are constantly
yeah,
seeking pleasure and avoiding pain.
exactly. Yep, that in a nutshell. Absolutely. We just pile on rationalizations to do one or the other. So
We
some are
are
better
we
than
are
others.
very good at justifying our bad decisions.
Oh yeah, that have already been
Because
made.
it well, and that's a result of like religious teachings or
Yeah.
societal teachings. Like, well, I can. It's like mobster mentality. I can do a whole bunch of crying during the week, and then I go to church on Sunday, be redeemed, and I can go
It is
back and do a bunch of
it's one
crying.
option. Hmm.
You know, it's the
Yep.
same sort of mentality, because then if somebody's absolving me of guilt and personal responsibility, then I don't have to take responsibility for what anything I do. But when you
Yep.
believe religion, you suddenly realize there is no daddy, and you have to make personal respons-
You'd
responsibility
hope so.
for everything
Yeah.
you do. And
Yeah.
if you
You hope.
don't have a healthy way to do that, you'll find another coping mechanism.
Yep.
It's like alcoholics when they find religion. Like, I
Well,
met a lot of those people.
and in reverse,
Mhm.
it's people have left and then turned towards why. Well, it's a way to structure and it's an answer to. I mean, and if you're having an issue with, and now we come back to that, are you okay with struggle and difficulty and so on? What are you going to do to avoid it? Well, everything from ideological ways to behavioral ways, up to and including, drug and alcohol use. I, I judge them. It's just okay. Sucks. There's just better ways. So,
Right. And I think there's like and I like, I'm not a psychologist, but I have a lot of psychological understanding of how behavior manifests. And
mhm,
unfortunately, unless you are in therapy or you're very well educated on these certain topics, and you're also have to do a lot of self-reflecting and a lot of being like, okay, like, why do I behave this way? What is my motivator? What am I avoiding? What am I unless you're willing to, like, you know have tea with your demons. That's the way I put it. Like, I'm having tea with
mhm.
my demons. Unless you're
Oh yeah,
willing to do that, you will do avoidance behaviors.
yeah. Well, you're gonna do. I mean,
Or something, or mediation behaviors, or
you're gonna
whatever
do
that looks
avoidance
like.
behaviors all the time. Yeah. I
No,
mean,
you
it's
can't, but
it's it's a matter of all things being equal. Do you have
yeah,
more? And some days are better than others. So absolutely.
it's a mixed bag. It's a
It
mixed
is
bag.
that.
It
Yeah.
always is. It's because that's what we're mixed bags.
Mhm,
And there's no shame in, like, I want to, like, we're taught, like, shame is a good teacher, because I feel like if you're feeling some type of shame, there's something either within you, or social there's some kind of social consequence, uh it- that can be a motivator, or you're going to bury it, one or the other.
mhm.
And like, and that, because shame is different than guilt. you know um
It is.
they're
It
two
is.
different things. Like, shame can feed guilt, but guilt is different than shame.
Yeah.
I always say that shame is the manifestation of a social consequence or some kind of moral wound, versus guilt,
Mhm,
where it's the thing that carries. Guilt is what carries. Shame is, and that's
mm.
kind of my, like, I'm not saying it's correct. That's just my perception.
Yeah. No,
You
that's an interesting way of putting it. Yeah. Well, and shame often goes to a fundamental structure of how we think about ourselves, an identity issue. We shame about
know?
when we people talk about shame, it's this like thing, miasma, whereas guilt tends to be about specificity. I'm guilty about this thing,
Right.
whereas shame is like I'm feeling shame about who I am. So it's a gradation, issue.
Like I like the Shame Monster and Big Mouth is probably the best manifestation I've seen of shame. Like the social consequence of being embarrassed and feeling shame for, you know, for like, internal and external circumstances. You know, like the Shame Monster is pretty great. So
That's the second time I've heard that show reference today.
You have not watched Big Mouth?
I have not. No.
Oh my God, David! I'm gonna.
Culturally
Okay. You always
isolated.
recommend you listen. You got me to watch Arcane. As your friend,
Okay.
you need to watch Big Mouth. I promise you, you will laugh your ass off. It has a fantastic cast. You will, my friend. Telling you,
put it at
watch
the
this
top
fucking
of the
show. It is so good. It's very funny, but also very poignant and emotional. It's great, and you're gonna feel like a 13-year-old boy again. It's been great.
Yeah.
Because because all junior high kids going through puberty, and like I'm like, oh, I remember those feelings. Oh yeah.
Yeah, tube socks and Converse. Yeah.
Nah. Ooh. Oh, rolled jeans or Guess jeans with the zippers on the side. Oh, baby.
I was not that cool. I was wearing
box.
corduroy and thinking I was a badass. So, yeah.
I have 2 pairs of corduroy pants I wear when it's cooler out. I live in Florida.
Corduroy and my Jesus Saves t-shirt in high school.
See, I didn't wear like I never wore like religious iconography on me. Like I think I once had like a gold necklace with a cross on it that my mom gave me, and I wore that for a bit. I don't know where that went. Like,
yeah,
I don't like now. I'm just like, like I probably wear a cross ironically.
That's fair.
Be very gothic though.
Yeah. If I'm gonna do it, I'm going big and yeah.
I get one of those big silver crosses like right in the middle of your chest.
It'd have to be silver so that I can use it against vampires and werewolves.
And werewolves because they can stab them.
Yeah, no, that's
how you do it. Because then
infuse it with garlic.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and also you like can have little vials of holy water.
Now we're just going. Now we're going vampire.
We're going Van Helsing. Nice. That's what we're doing. Van Helsing. It's very
terribly
funny.
Awesome
like
movie.
Sidebar, but like I'm kind of curious where the mythology of garlic, because I understand crosses and holy water, that I get. Like, evil creature, symbolic power, get that. Garlic, I don't.
Yeah.
Like, I wonder if it's like because it's a purifier. Like, I know it's good for your heart. I do know it's good for your heart.
Yeah, I don't know. I'd be totally making.
I'm gonna have to. That will be a Chat GBT question. I can ask my Chat GBT. Why garlic?
Why garlic? Yes.
Yeah, of all the things.
Nope. Absolutely.
Oh, dude. Okay, so on vampires. Sorry. We're talking about religion. I had never seen Twilight, and okay. So my roommate, my roommate's never seen Evil Dead. So I said, okay. I'm like, if you don't watch, I'm like, if we were like, you need to watch the Evil Dead series, and they were like, great, but you have to watch Twilight. So I got really high last weekend. And we watched it, and I was like, what am I watching? Like, I had seen like parody videos and stuff like that, but I never sat down and watched the movie because I love myself. I tried reading the book, and I just like the prose was so bad that I was just like, I'm like, this book is not for me. Because I'm not 16 anymore. So understand. I get it. I was laughing, but there was actually some like, I love Charlie. Like, I'm like, Charlie's the best character.
True.
He is the best character. He's such a good dad, and he's trying to show up. And I got really mad at Bella. I'm like, you don't treat Charlie like that, Bella, for your stupid ass abusive boyfriend. like you don't treat Charlie like that. I was very upset.
Was
Like
there?
it's a very
I mean,
pretty movie, but like, oh my god, it's so like it was so
it's
bad, it
terrible.
was good.
The well, all of it has that. There's I think it was an SNL skit, somebody I forget, that had done a spoof on a while ago, and woman and a guy who's clearly older than her, and she's like, I deeply appreciate that, I need you to change me into a vampire so we can be together forever. And it comes out that, he's like, well, how old are you? And it's like, I'm 17. It's like, oh, but how long have you been? It's like, well, I've been 17 for 30 years. And he's like, and she's like, wait, so you're 47? And he's like, no, I'm 17. It's been 17 for 30 years. Yeah, but I mean, this means you're 47. I thought you were like
Right.
hundreds of years old. Now you're just that's sexy. You're just old. It was, oh my god, I died.
Love that.
It
That's
was it
so
was awesome.
because
Like,
it is. If you think about that, it does make sense. Like a 17-year-old to a 40, like it would be like us being with like a teenager, like maybe with an
yeah,
18-year-old. Yeah, like, oh
yeah,
no.
no,
But
no.
if you're like hundreds of years old, like then
Suddenly
existentially
it's okay.
time doesn't really, because that's only your
Yeah.
lifetime. If you're hundreds of years old, like time doesn't matter at that point.
No,
But
no,
it's
no.
so creepy. Because
It's so
even
creepy.
Buffy brought this up.
Right. Well, where is your development stunted along the way that after all this life experience, and so on and so forth, that you think a 17-year-old is amazing? Like,
I've
no,
met 17-year-old. I raised a 17-year-olds. My
yeah,
kids are in their early
yeah.
20s right now, and I'm just like, oh,
Mm.
yeah, no.
I have hundreds of years of life experience, and where do I go for love? A moron. Like,
Well, I was
okay.
laughing. I was laughing so hard, like when Edward was like showing his like graduation caps, and I'm like, that's hell. Be like stuck in high school over and over and over, and they're like, well, they're like, the longer we can convince. I'm like, no, I'm sorry, you don't have to go to high school. You don't have to. You can just exist in the world. You don't have to blend in that much if you are an immortal, all powerful being. You really don't.
No, no, no. Hmm.
Though it is interesting, like with like how vampires would behave in the modern age because of iPhones and like like instant recording and like what you do with the bodies. Because like do vampires still produce DNA? Is it gonna show like you know we have science now? like these are the type of questions if you're gonna make a
It is,
modern vampire story.
yeah. I mean, there are a lot of urban fantasy authors that try to, but they always have to shift things around, and eventually they have to bring up magic. So it's like, how do you explain this? Magic. Okay.
Magic. It's a wizard.
Yeah. Yeah. Fuck.
A wizard did it. Well, but it's one of those things that like this is why I don't think any mythological creatures exist, because I'm like the logistics of it for it to exist would not
Are
make sense in 2025. I
no, no,
can
no,
understand
no.
hundreds of years ago. I get it.
Yeah. I
Not in
mean,
2025.
yeah. Well, it's the whole thing of like Sasquatch and visiting aliens. It's like our cameras have gotten better, but the pictures still look the same. Okay. Something
Yeah.
tells me might be
Might be
no.
some bullshit. Oh, there was
Yeah.
I watched a really um interesting thing about like why the modern like UFOs have kind of taken over like religion. Um
Mhm.
because you can still believe, because like they're lack of a better word, but more provable.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because they could exist. Like, if you believe in any sort of statistics, I'm like, cool. I'm like, fine. If you want, like, I'm probably there's probably another galaxy somewhere in the universe that has sentient beings that have, um, developed space travel. Cool. Have unlimited resources,
Mhm.
are able to take energy from stars and things like that. Like I get it. Like like I can go there. I can,
Mhm.
but I don't think they're coming here.
Yeah, not to this backwater. Yeah,
No, I'm
no,
like,
no,
and they're gonna probe you,
yeah.
which somebody I think, okay, like, and the great philosopher Joe Rogan said that it might be a manifestation of sexual abuse trauma in childhood, that people like layered it with like alien uh
Oh,
sexual stuff, which plausible
maybe.
maybe,
Yeah,
though it's
yeah.
Joe Rogan, so take that.
Take it under advisement. Yes, big old brick of salt. Yeah. Uh, although,
Or people
admittedly,
just
there
like
were.
attention.
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is some conjecture around like the development of the idea of a succubus as being a means for, uh, you know,
That's what I'm gonna come back
rationalizing
as.
wet
If
dreams.
I'm gonna come back as a succubus demon. Like,
Sounds like fun to me. Yeah,
afterlife goals.
yeah. Why isn't that a reincarnation?
Right? No, you get either like, we're constantly learning lessons. I'm like, how many more lessons do I have to learn? Like,
Yeah, how many lessons do I need to learn to to get that? Like,
right?
like
Like I
so
want to be a
I learned two
succubus
lessons,
demon.
I come back as an ant. I learned 25, I come back as a succubus. No.
Exactly. But so I'm sorry, like, was that the use, like, because I know, like, because everything was supernatural back in like
Yeah.
before we had understood, like, night terrors and eternal emissions and spontaneous
Mhm.
orgasms and things like that. Like
Is there
we
anything
didn't.
better than nocturnal emission than a phrase?
It's such a weird term.
So yeah, yeah. But
Well,
yeah, no,
girls
I
don't get that. Like, we don't have
no,
them, it's all the men. Like, when you're going through
yeah,
puberty.
it's true.
I think Todd said he only had one when he was going through puberty. And I was like, oh, um, and this is a judgment thing. I was like, because I thought, like, when I heard about it, like, it happened all the time, like, between the ages of 12 and 15, you're just like spontaneous, like,
No,
orgasming, like, and your poor mom has to wash her sheets.
not nearly that often. Yeah.
Because that was what was in my, because, like, I don't know. Like, I've
Mm,
never been a 14-year-old boy.
yeah,
Like, I don't know.
yeah,
But it's
no,
one of those
no.
questions that I'm like, do you do that? And then Todd's like, no, it's not like that. So, but these are questions that I have.
Okay.
Like,
They're
questions
certain
for
questions
philosophers. Like,
of a certain type. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
so I'm gonna
Yes.
bring this back around. I'm gonna be mature now.
Okay. All right. All
It's
right.
not gonna last long. So just, like, hold on.
Nope. 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 I have a few minutes.
Okay. So what advice would you give someone that is experiencing their coming out religion, or they're realizing that they might have some issues surrounding religion, like, other than going to therapy, which we will say go to therapy, like, what other advice would you give somebody? Or what would you say to them?
Go on and I mean, and I don't. I hope that doesn't come across as flip out because it's not that. It's go out and have experiences. Walk on wet grass barefoot. see a movie that you may not have appreciated before. Read a book from a genre that you haven't encountered. Um, Go to a different church service for that matter. I mean, who cares? It's all fake anyway. Like, experience people. The the if we understand trauma from within religious context as being kind of carried by two things. One, a narrow structuring of how we think about our lives, and a kind of and therefore a reduction in our experiences or what we're allowed to have, combined with a lack or a uh, an idea that questioning is somehow a problem. That
Mhm.
when we feel off in any way, it is a sign of our own, problems. Then one solution, or at least a means of slowly undermining that nonsense, is to go out and live more, to go out and have experiences that are a little difficult at times. Go, go out, mow the lawn. Yeah, go out and remember that you have more to your life than what was narrowly allowed to you. And if you feel uncomfortable, good. It's not a sign of your lack. It's not a sign of your moral failure necessarily. Ethics don't. But it's not in and of itself. Like, feeling uncertain doesn't mean that there's something wrong with you. Challenge, question, have different
Mhm.
conversations. Have a conversation with somebody that you're not going to agree with. Just to have that challenge of going, oh, I need to do better at figuring out my own stuff. Okay, great.
Or find out what
Questioning
you
is
do
free.
have in common.
Or what you do. Hell yeah. I mean, how many people, can I, have conversations and enjoy over my mutual love of DC and Marvel, that, certainly we might not be able to have easy conversations about, say, religion, politics, and certain other matters. But at the end of the day, do I need to have those conversations with that person? No, no, I don't. That's the narrowness of the authoritarian model, that
Mhm.
said everybody must be looked at through a very narrow, simplistic lens. And no, that's just the bullshit. It's not celebrating humanity. Sure. And all of its varied silliness and fun.
Right, and also knowing, like, if for some reason if talking about DC versus Marvel triggers you and it becomes way too emotional, maybe not engage in that conversation,
Maybe
because
not. Yeah.
because if you're very serious about, like, don't go on online forums, just like your movies, like your
Yep.
comics, and just live there.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
but if you wanna get into a heated debate about, like, why, Jessica Jones is better than, Wonder Woman, then you can have that conversation. but but
Thank you.
yeah,
Okay.
those are the kind of yeah, it's those little boxes that,
Yep.
that things that religion or even political ideologies or sexualities, genders, whatever it
Yep.
is, it's say like this is the box you have to exist in. And when you
Mhm.
realize it's like, no, I don't.
Nope. Here's a label, and that's all I need to know about you. That is, and that can be found anywhere. It's like, well, you're this, therefore I know what you think. No, 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 you don't. It's just politics does this all the time and all over the place.
Or
Like,
even if
oh well,
you're
you belong to this. Yeah,
well,
no.
it's even if you get diagnosed with some kind of like I have ADHD and chronic depression. Like,
Mhm,
yeah, it gives me a label so I can get treatment.
mhm.
but it doesn't define me as a person. It's just a descriptor of
Yep.
certain behaviors that have manifested and that exists within my brain, because brains are weird.
And that have manifested in the
But it
past.
doesn't define me.
Right.
I define
Right.
me. All of
Yep.
it.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'd say relationships have a lot of say in that, but that's just it. If we're constantly evolving and understanding of ourselves through the interconnections that we build, then why would we artificially limit ourselves by saying, well, I've got a label now, I'm good? Well, it's just shorthand. That's it. It's a nice little shortcut, but useful. But
But it's a
you're bigger
tool.
than that.
It's a
Yeah.
it's just a tool. Like a label is a
Yeah.
tool. Like if I say that I have like depression, like
Mhm.
you'll see it manifest this way, and it's just because this is a brain state.
Yep.
ADHD is a brain state.
Mhm.
Like the chemical imbalances in my brain kind of fuck things up a little bit sometimes. That's all it is, and I have to be on medication, do therapy to deal with it. But it says nothing about me as a person. It's just it describes the behavior, but it doesn't say anything about my internal reality as a person.
Mhm.
And I think people are afraid of, like, we'll diagnose someone with cancer. We're like, okay, you have cancer. We understand what that is. But if you tell someone they have generalized anxiety disorder or bipolar disorder, somehow that's a judgment on that person. And it's like, no, it's like your brain's a part of your body, and brains are weird. And sometimes the chemicals and the way that it developed are just a little weird. And that's okay, because guess what? Cancer is weird.
Mhm.
Diabetes is weird. Everything is weird. And we got to
Everything
stop
is good.
putting, because I would say, like, I like the way that I look about my mental health and whatever you're diagnosed with, it's like there's nothing inherently wrong with you. You just have a different brain. And it's just a matter of how you're mitigating and how you're dealing with that different brain.
Mhm.
That's my
Well,
perspective.
well, it's a shortcut to understanding of a in a particular way. It's not the
Yeah.
only way of looking at it.
No.
And it's not the only way that you have to certainly look into yourself. So, you know,
That, like,
diagnosing
this
it
is
in
just my
DSM is
perspective. I'm not saying one
right.
has to adopt that that's just the way that I've understood mental health. And
Mhm.
because if I start putting, like, I want you to get professional help, and I want you to see people that can help you, deal with it, however your brain state is,
Right.
whether it's chronic or it's something that you only need for a few months, one or the other, fine. Just get help. But
Mhm.
I like saying that if you have depression or bipolar disorder or OCD or, whatever, that it defines you as a person. No, because you're more than you are. That is a piece of a whole.
Mhm.
So,
Yep. Well, like comment notes, it's
yeah.
some people, and we come back to that structure again. We come back to that
Yeah.
need that we all have to make sense of our lives in such a way that we can act knowing that when I do A, B is likely to result. There's a consistency that we appreciate as human beings. If everything is uncertain, we don't do much. We don't move. We just freeze up. We're a deer in headlights when everything is uncertain. It's why isolation happens when things feel up in the air and uncertain. What do we do when we have, we're involved with, say, any kind of friendship or a connection that says, well, I can never count on you to show up, even when you said so. What do we do? Well, we back off. Why? Because it's not a good way to live life. Like we're trying to do something and the person's going, nope, you can never be certain about what's going to happen next. Well, that's awful. And so what do we do? Well, we go away. And it's not any different than any other time. And frankly, it makes sense. Why would you continue to engage when every time you do, you never know what's going to come next? That'd be awful. So, of course, we're going to search for things that help us make sense, even if at times what makes sense is, well, bullshit. Okay.
Well, like when someone says like I thrive on change, and mm, I'm like, you thrive on
Yeah.
novelty.
Y- Yeah. And even
There's
then,
a
it's
difference, because if
controlled.
your life was
Yeah.
constant change, it'd be constant chaos, because you wouldn't find stability.
Yeah.
Novelty is, things that, give you interest, and learning, like give you that dopamine for that learning dump.
Yeah.
That's what you thrive on. You don't thrive on constant change, because everyone that I know that had
You
constant
can't.
change has a lot of fucking trauma.
No, you can't thrive on. I mean, if you
Yeah,
take like constant, like true, the increase in change where things are non-predictable is that's how it hurts. And now we come back to trauma. Like, what is
yep,
trauma? It is that non-predictable. It's something that is an aberration from how we thought that the world was going to be, and
right,
hence the piece of it being a perception thing, and then the other piece being the actual activity itself, and the combination creates then the space for the environment for how we then deal with them, and that
right,
can be all sorts of different ways, positive and negative. So
right.
yeah, so
And it's not a right or wrong thing, but it's one of those things
mm,
that, like, because it is a change in the brain, how do we mitigate that, and how do you recognize that your brain has changed, and how is it influencing you?
mhm,
um and some people don't even realize it has influenced them,
yeah,
because they're, those of us that are well educated on this type of stuff are like, yeah, like, that's a thing. you
that's the
know
thing. Yeah,
yeah, but for other people, they're like, "Well, I just do." And it's like, "Yeah," but I'm like, they're like, "What is the motivator?"
mm,
And because
yeah,
everything you do has some. Okay, so like, I always say, every behavior you do
okay.
benefits you in some way, even if that benefit is not good for you.
It's yeah. I usually phrase it as it serves a perceived need, and
Yeah.
to get something that, and hey, we can eat that salad, or we can go towards the Reese's Pieces. Either way, both are getting calories. It's just over time, one's going to have
How
other
you're getting them.
consequences. Like, okay,
Or you do motivated reasoning, and it's like, "Well, I did work out today, so I do get to have the Reese's
sure, yes,
Pieces." Like
yeah. Now I'm bragging myself. Yeah,
right, and, like, every morning to myself, and, like, it's all motivated reasoning.
it is. It is. It does. Yeah.
But if you wanna have the Reese's Pieces, no judgment to you. Like, if you wanna have your Reese's Pieces, it's not a judgment
Mhm.
call.
Oh no, no, that's my go-to.
I am
Combination of chocolate and
See,
peanut butter.
I'm not a sweets person. I like, if you give me like, chips and hummus, like a bag of well, like, we can't keep, like, potato chips or goldfish in the house, because I will ice cream I could care less about. Sweets, no. Like,
Yeah,
I'm not a sweets person. I am a, like,
salty.
if you give me a box of wheat thins, I will eat the whole. I'm that person, because I like savory, salty things. Um,
Yeah.
sweets are, if it is sweets, it's gonna be like cheesecake. It's not gonna
Mhm.
be like chocolate, or, though Reese's a dark chocolate Reese's peanut butter cup is like the fucking shit. It is
True.
so good, because I love dark chocolate. So, you know,
Now I need
everybody's
to go to
got
the
a
store.
vice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Mm.
um,
Yeah.
it is now 9 o'clock. Thank
Yep.
you so much for being on my show. This was a wonderful, different
This was
direction, but
fun.
kind of all related.
It really is. Yeah. Yep.
Except
Nope.
the
Therapists are
question is,
people too.
why garlic? Like,
Yes. And
so
remember,
tell the
Marvel or
people where
DC,
they can.
it's all good.
Okay, so tell the people where they can find you, other than I did put your links in the doobly doo. It's there in there.
Fabulous.
But
Fabulous.
tell people where they can
Yeah.
find you.
Absolutely. No, people can find me quite easily on Facebook, Google my name. But then as well, lifeleavings.com is my main business page. It's where you can find links to all my writing and my classes. I have one on religious trauma. Also, I have another one on anger. And then, of course, all my writing is done at Substack at humanitiesvalues.com. So
I love you, wifey
reach
wife.
out. Yeah, you got questions, by all means. I'm always looking for inspiration to write about. So reach out. Be great.
Well, thank you. It's been a long time since we hung out. I missed you. So thank
Yeah,
you so much. Thank you for being
you're very
here.
welcome. Thank you.
So next week I got 3 more shows before I go on vacation. I will tell the people who I have on because I have it on my fucking calendar. So next week I have Godless Engineer on Monday. James Colbert, who he's part of Changing Winds. He's going to talk about more his own experience with the religious trauma and leaving religion and forging community for people that have experienced those things. And then Eli from the ACA is going to be on Thursday. So I have 3 shows next week. So before I go on vacay. So that's just stuffing everything in. So it's a turducken of Freethinkers Fireside.
The turducken, everything.
Turducken. All right. Everybody have a wonderful weekend. I will see you all here on Monday. Be kind, give someone a compliment, stay skeptical, and I'll see you all here next week. Bye, mofos.